Yo, what's up, everybody? Point of attack. Gonna go over week one, what surprises we had, what didn't surprise us, what really surprised us. You start with the Thursday night game. KC's a very good team. Obviously, New England, Super Bowl champs. We knew this game was going to be good. Probably what caught a lot of people by surprise is the beating that Kansas City put on the Patriots. They really exposed them, showing them that, if you've got good team speed, that you can beat them. And they did pretty convincingly. It was a pretty tight game going into the second half, and then again into the fourth quarter. It was, one possession game, and then KC really pulled away and gave him a beating. Tom Brady only having 157 passing yards is unheard of. They really missed Edelman out there, and it looked like Gronk was a little banged up too already with a bruised sternum, and Amendola wasn't doing his thing. They struggled to really get anything going. They look confused. And Alex Smith, if any of you guys watched my video on underrated players, I had him as my number one guy. Alex Smith took it to him. That kid is a very good player, and he proved it. And I said, granted, he's normally not that 300-yard passer, but he can, and he did. So, he lit him up. So that game was really a surprise. Atlanta and Chicago, that actually turned out to be a really close game, considering, everybody expected Chicago to get, their ass beat pretty good. And they hung in a game. And I mean, all reality, they had a chance to win at the end. They're on the 5-yard line with, hardly any time left, and quarterback takes a sack, and you just can't have that. You got to let the ball go and at least try to score, just throw it up there. You can't take a sack. So, Chicago wind up losing, but it was a lot closer than we expected. Atlanta doesn't look quite as good as they did last year. So Baltimore, shut out Cincy. Divisional games, they're normally pretty tight games, but Cincy just looked absolutely terrible. So, I don't expect much from Cincy this year. And then the Steelers playing the Browns. The Browns hung in there, a 21-18 game. I said I thought that the Browns are going to be much improved this year, and they look pretty good. They hung around. DeShone Kizer, looked really good for a rookie in his first NFL game, going against a very, very tough team. So that was actually kind of impressive, and they did it without Myles Garrett too. So when that kid comes back healthy, they could be a much better team. I think one of the big shocks this weekend was probably the way Jacksonville beat the hell out of Houston. I mean, I know a lot of people didn't see that coming, especially with Houston's defense being as stout as they are, and Jacksonville being able to, throw up 29 points on them and look good doing it too. So, I mean, they were able to run the ball like crazy. Fournette, if you watched our rookie video, we mentioned how, he was probably going to be very, very solid, and he was. And Houston just having the worst quarterback in history. Tom Savage looked so bad out there. It was ridiculous. Like, he had no business being in the game. And we said it when it was coming up to halftime. Bill O'Brien's best move is to yank his ass and put him on the bench and let Watson come in and do his thing. And he did that. And you know what? They turned it around. They were at least able to move the ball and put a couple points on the board. So, look for him to start this week, and Tom Savage to be, bagging groceries probably, because I don't see them, doing anything with him. If anything, he's going to be a backup forever, or, they could release him. Oakland looked good as usual. Not really a surprise there. Tennessee is a much, much better team this year, but, Oakland is a Super Bowl contender, and they came out and proved it. They did everything that they needed to do, and they got the win. Carr looked good. Cooper looked good. Marshawn Lynch looked good. The defense, is stout, so they look pretty good. Eagles beat the Redskins. I don't think that was really a surprise either. I think it was a surprise that they beat them in Washington, because they hadn't won there in like 4 years. But you saw what happened to Washington in the offseason, letting, all their big-time wide receivers go, and they still wouldn't sign Cousins. And, they didn't look great offensively that game either. Cousins missed a lot of throws, and Terrell Pryor looks like he's going to be a player there as well, though. So, that's one bright spot. But, they lost that game 30-17. So I think Washington, probably will wind up last in the division, or close to it if they're not the Cowboys and Giants game was, I think, was a little bit of a shock. I don't think a lot of people thought that the Cowboys defense was going to show up and did the things they did, myself included, getting sacks. And the funny thing was, we started our backup D lineman because we had two D ends suspended and a D tackle. And, I was harping about that all year. What the hell is it going to be like with, some backups on a D line and then rookies in the secondary? But you know what? With Odell Beckham out and very little running game on the Giants' part, they were able to get constant pressure on Eli, which was very, very surprising. Their offensive line for the Giants is a dumpster fire. They are absolutely terrible. They were atrocious to watch. Eli didn't have 2 seconds. You can't even pin, that game on him not being good. I mean, he couldn't even look downfield. He had 2 seconds and then was, either throw it or take the sack. I mean, he was getting his ass beat around the whole frigging game because of how bad their offensive line was against not a very good defensive line. I mean, don't take away from that game that our defense, the Cowboys defense, is really, really good, because they may be okay, but their offensive line made them look like they were all world, which I don't see happen. If they don't figure out a way to plug the holes in that offensive line, the Giants are going to be in serious, serious trouble this year. And they need OBJ to come back and be healthy. With that type of injury, it can hamper him all year because, a big thing on him is getting yak yards after the catch, cutting and running with the ball. And if he's got a messed up ankle, that could mess him up all year. And at least when he's on the field, he draws coverage. So he'll get other guys open. And, with him not out there, you saw like Marshall and Sterling Shepard weren't able to do much. I mean, top targeted guy was their tight end Ingram, who's a very good tight end, but you got to get some production out of your wideouts too. So if the Giants don't turn it around, who knows? They could be on the bottom of the division right with Washington. So, I mean, they definitely need to make moves. I think another huge upset this weekend was the Rams, 46-9. Like, are you kidding me? This is a team that, wasn't very good. Now, granted, I think they're playing, the worst team in the league right now with Indy. They're a true dumpster fire. It's their whole squad is freaking terrible. Outside of T.Y. Hilton, they don't have a whole lot to look forward to, even when Luck gets back. And who knows when that's going to be, because, they've already said it that doctors don't even know when he's going to be healthy enough to start throwing. So Scott Tolzien is the man right now. And you can see he's not the man. The Rams absolutely beat the living crap out of him. It was so Carolina looked good. I thought they were going to have a bounce back year. They played the Niners, and Niners are rebuilding and you don't really know what to expect, but they went out there and did exactly what they were supposed to. Only gave up 3 points. The defense is still really stout. And Cam did his thing. Kelvin Benjamin, Christian McCaffrey looked good in his first game, and he's only going to get more and more touches. So, they look pretty good. And then, you got Sam Bradford from Minnesota, just like the number one quarterback this weekend, just absolutely freaking lights out. It was a real shock to see the way he played. I mean, he had a decent year last year as a starter, but last night, Diggs and Devin Cook, he was really, really able to pretty much do anything he wanted. I mean, I think he only had like 4 incomplete passes. He was pretty lights out. So with that defense, Minnesota could be a real freaking problem. That's a team that Green Bay might have to watch out for. They can give them a run for their money. And that Green Bay was another good game, them in Seattle. We know Seattle doesn't travel real well, and going to Green Bay is one of the hardest places to play anyway. But it was a close game, and it was a good game. So, Green Bay comes out with the win, and offensively, they still look great. Defensively, I don't think their defense look all that good, and I've never thought that Seattle had this high-flying offense to begin with. Their offense is very game managing. Don't put up a ton of points, rely on their defense to really get things done. And, they'll win games 21 or 24 to, 17-10, something like that. So, that was week 1. So I hope everyone's excited as I was about it because, football is back. Absolutely love it. It was a great weekend. Obviously, I was stoked the Cowboys came away with the win. So now we'll go into week 2 and see how that goes. So leave comments. Let me know what you took away from week 1. And granted, it is only week 1, so you can't judge an entire season on it. it's going to be a growing process for a lot of teams. So you'll see how teams develop and make changes and stuff like that. And, watch the Patriots this week after, what happened to them last week. Don't be shocked if they come out and beat the living crap out of the Saints, just because that's the type of team they are. So, on to week 2. We'll see how it goes. I appreciate all you guys watching Point of Attack. Don't forget, if you're looking for some clothing, you can go check out my boys' clothing line, Relentless Clothing. You can find it on Instagram and Facebook. So check that out as well. So until week 2, I'll see you guys next time. Laters.